Welcome to this presentation, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce's Commercial Law Development Program's Procurement Basics series.
Hello, I'm Jim Williams, and today I would like to talk to you about best value in U.S. federal procurement. Today I would like to talk to you about the best value continuum, about best value source selection approaches, applicability of best value approaches, technical cost trade-off tender requirements, evaluation methodologies, and essentials for conduct of the trade-off approach. The best value continuum. In our Federal Acquisition Regulation FAR, subpart 15.101 defines the best value continuum. An agency can obtain best value in negotiated acquisitions by using any one or a combination of source selection approaches. In different types of acquisitions, the relative importance of cost or price may vary. For example, in acquisitions where the requirement is clearly definable and the risk of unsuccessful contract performance is minimal, cost or price may play a dominant role in source selection. The less definitive the requirement, the more development work required, or the greater performance risk, the more technical or past performance considerations may play a dominant role in source selection. And again, understanding the marketplace and the mission requirements is critical to making the correct best value decision. Here are two different best value source selection approaches. The first is the trade-off process, and the trade-off process is appropriate when it may be in the best interest of the government to consider award to other than the lowest priced offer or other than the highest technically rated. In other words, you are making a trade-off between the differences in those proposals and what those differences mean to the government and the differences in the cost or price between the different proposals. In a lowest price technically acceptable, again, that is an approach that's used when the requirements are very defined and the risk of performance may be very low. That's looking at any company that meets the technical criteria as a minimum and is acceptable. You then award to the lowest price amongst those proposers who have submitted technically acceptable proposals. Again, no differences in technicals are considered, only whether they meet the minimum requirements, and then you award to the lowest evaluated price. Applicability of each of these best value approaches. For large, complex, or non-precisely defined requirements or needs, best value of the technical cost trade-off is definitely appropriate. For large ICT procurements or large projects, the technical cost trade-off is highly recommended. For requirements that are essentially commodities with little differences between the products or services and their suppliers, a lowest price technically acceptable best value approach may be the best approach. For acquisitions such as buying commercial items or services, such as water, where there is no difference in what is being supplied, nor in the delivery risk between suppliers, the LPTA approach may be appropriate. For all other situations, the best value approach with technical cost trade-off is appropriate. Requirements for tenders that use a technical cost trade-off approach. Our Federal Acquisition Regulation states that when you are using a trade-off process, the following applies: all evaluation factors and significant sub-factors that will affect contract award and their relative importance to each other shall be clearly stated in the solicitation or tender document, and the solicitation or tender document shall state whether all evaluation factors other than cost or price, when combined, are significantly more important than, approximately equal to, or significantly less important than cost or price. This process permits trade-offs among cost or price and non-cost factors and allows the government to accept other than the lowest price proposal. The perceived benefits of the higher price proposal shall merit the additional costs, and that rationale for those trade-offs must be documented in the contract file. The internationally accepted MAPS, or methodology for assessing procurement systems, does provide criterion for best value assessments. In its Pillar 3, under Public Procurement Operations and Market Practices, it says appropriate techniques are applied to determine best value for money based on the criteria stated in the procurement documents and to award the contract. And it also states that it is critical that the government communicate its intent to award, leveraging a trade-off approach, and stating the relative importance of evaluation factors and its relationship to price or cost. Evaluation methodologies. You can evaluate non-price factors by using rating scoring methods like using colors, adjectives, or points. For each non-price factor, proposals can be scored or rated by assessing their strengths, weaknesses, and risk. Risk can also be assessed separately. An example of using colors or adjectives may be at the top, blue or outstanding, indicating the proposal or tender document. The tender has substantial strengths and no weaknesses, little risk. Next level down, green or good, the proposal has some strengths, a few weaknesses, and some risk. Yellow or acceptable could be few strengths, if any, some weaknesses, some risk. Red or poor, indicating it's technically unacceptable, major weaknesses, major risk. Essentials for conducting a technical cost trade-off approach. Communicating throughout the procurement cycle regarding the decision to leverage a trade-off approach is important to send the right message to the potential bidders. Choosing evaluation factors and their relative importance that reflect the mission needs and market understanding. Evaluation factors represent the key areas of importance and the key emphasis areas to be considered in the source selection decision, and they support meaningful comparison and discrimination between and among competing proposals. Will superiority in this factor provide value to the government? And is the government willing to pay more for that superiority? Also, having a well-documented source selection plan in advance and providing proper training for how best to conduct that trade-off decision for all personnel involved in the source selection process is important. Additional essentials for conducting a successful trade-off approach include ensuring that the tender document is consistent between the different sections that include the evaluation criteria, the requirements, and the proposal instructions. Also, ensuring that proposals are reviewed only against the stated evaluation factors, not hidden evaluation factors. Also, you can have the initial review of proposals be done independently by the independent evaluators, but you must have narrative documentation to support the ratings or scores. And the source selection decision, if it's not just using point totals, must compare proposals and provide a justification whether benefits are worth the additional amount the government would pay for those benefits. This can be a subjective judgment or even use a quantification of those benefits, but the decision must reflect reasonable business judgment and be consistent with the tender document. Additional essentials for conducting a trade-off approach. You should ensure that life cycle costs, total life cycle costs, and how those price or costs are evaluated are clearly stated in the tender document. If price or costs are part of an overall scoring methodology, then you should determine up front how to convert those price or costs into points. And source selection decision must be communicated to all the unsuccessful offers to convey to them that number one, they were treated fairly. Number two, that the tender documents evaluation methodology was followed and that the source selection documented decision was rational. The bidders should have confidence before, during, and after that the government did all of the above. In conclusion, best value should be considered when formulating all acquisition plans. Best value with a trade-off process is appropriate when contractor differences are of value to government. Understanding the market and mission requirements is critical to choosing the right best value approach. Conducting technical cost trade-offs is dependent upon well-documented proposal evaluations and correct application of tender document evaluation methodologies. It is smart acquisition that best aligns with mission accomplishment.